talk a lot about how important it is to process our emotions well, which means hearing the message that an emotion has for you, reevaluating what is going on, and then discerning what actions this emotion wants you to take and adjusting accordingly. The thing that it could be really hard with that is that a lot of us, especially as adults, or maybe now that we are adults, still don't have the words for the emotions that we experience. We might know that we feel anxious or tight, like anxious is a rule, not even that it's necessarily anxiety, but we have very limited words for figuring out what it is that we are actually experiencing. And we might lash out in a way that has been acceptable for us, whether that is from our family or our culture or the background we're from. There are acceptable ways to express emotional discomfort, whether that acceptable way is in anger, or whether it's stony silence, or whether it's passive aggressive. All of us have ways that we handle these, not necessarily healthy, but we do have ways that we handle them. And that might be the words that we use for expressing what we are experiencing. We might say, I am frustrated, or I am angry, or even I am sad, rather than saying I feel blamed, or I feel a sense of being at fault, or I feel a sense of failure, or I feel a sense of hopelessness, especially the emotions that our culture has a hard time with, like failure, like hopelessness, like effort unreceived, where the effort you're putting in is not yielding the results you want. We have a hard time labeling them, never mind hearing their message. So a good way to start might be to find a list of emotions online. You can find charts, you can find the emotion code chart, you can find, just if you Google list of negative emotions, use the word negative, that's how it's going to be labeled. If you find a list, you can start to go through it and go, what is it that really resonate? You can also look at the list and go, which ones make me cringe? I recently had an experience where I realized I had to work a little bit more on dealing with some emotions that keep coming up, and I couldn't quite label them. And when I finally became quiet and asked myself, what is it that I'm feeling? The word that came up was jealousy. And I was not willing to admit that, because jealousy is such a cringy emotion to me. It's so powerless and so like childish is what I would say. And yet exploring that emotion and sitting with it and finally going, yep, I think it's jealousy, opened up so many things that I was needing to know about myself, and the insecurities I have, and the things I hadn't dealt with, and resentments I was dealing with, that needed my attention. And if I wasn't willing to stop and say, yes, I'm experiencing jealousy, I wouldn't have been willing to go into these deep things that were really holding me back and leading me to create a very limiting story for myself. So the first step for a lot of us in healing anything, even when it's physical symptoms, is determining what the emotions are that we are feeling around the issue. Is it a cringy emotion like jealousy or resentment, or a hard one like hatred, anger? Is it something that we feel might be weak, like worthlessness or unworthiness, or shame? It is good to sit with a list, sit with yourself, set the intention that you will be honest, and trust your good heart to lead you into the dark places that can be sometimes scary, even if that dark place is admitting that you are struggling with jealousy.